Kim Adsit from KinderGals, and here's the big deal. If you live in the South, you don't want to hear the S word. Do you know what the S word is? Snow. So everyone is like chomping at the bit because we have heard the S word for Saturday. So watch out, because if you live in the South, there will be no bread or milk left by the time you go to the grocery store today. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, I decided today that I would bring you some ideas for those colored tiles that you probably all have in your classroom. My friend Michelle and I decided at the beginning of the year that we were going to come up with activities where we could use those manipulatives that we all have in our rooms for all the different math standards. It seems to be that, you know, when we have pattern blocks, we think, oh yeah, I can make patterns with these, and we use them to make patterns. Or with Unifix cubes, we think, oh, I can use these to make groups of 10, and we use them for that. But really what we want to do is we want to be able to use the manipulatives to teach all the standards. So I'm going to show you some different ideas just today on how to use the colored tile. So the first one we're going to do is with graphing. Now you might be thinking, well, graphing isn't a standard in kindergarten. Well, comparing is a standard. A graph is a tool that we use to teach comparing. So when you are using graphing, put down your comparing standards if you're kindergarten. If you're first grade, you have a graphing standard, so that's going to work great for you. So the first thing I did was I made a spinner. Now, I've shown y'all this before in another live that I did. Everything okay, Andy? Okay. In another live that I did, but it was really cool. Here's what a teacher showed me. Can y'all see this really good, Andy, here? I see the end of it. Okay, so what we have here is we've taken a brad. So here's my brad. I've put a paper clip, and then a pony bead on the brad, and then pushed the brad through the cardstock and taped it to the back. That way, when you spin the spinner, look what actually happens. The spinner actually will spin around. When you don't have that pony bead in there, the spinner doesn't even move. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to spin the spinner, okay? It landed on yellow, so I'm going to put a yellow one, okay? Oh, we're not doing spin a graph. We're doing spin a number. I'm sorry, I have a spin a graph one to show you in a few minutes. So this one here, we're doing composing and decomposing numbers. I'm sorry, I've probably confused you now. All right, so it lands on yellow, so I put another yellow. Lands on blue, so I put another blue. Lands on yellow, put another yellow. Lands on blue, put another blue. What they do is they keep spinning until either the blue or the yellow tens frame are filled up. Okay, so in this case, we have filled up the yellow tens frame. All right, so what we have is one group of 10 and then 2 ones. So the kids can come over to the recording sheet and color that in and write the equation 10 plus 4 equals 14. Now this should say decomposing number. That's a typo right there. I had fixed it, but we didn't catch it until after we used it with our kids. So it's fixed now, okay? Another thing we did was we make these cards to go with all of our pattern block, Unifix cube, color tile activities, because what we're going to do is we're going to use these same kind of activities with all of the manipulatives. And then the kids can get to where they know what's on that card. So when they see this card, they're going to have done it with you. They're going to have done it in a large group, and they're going to know exactly what you want them to do. Okay? All right. Let me get another one out to show you. All right. This one is called Build and Subtract. So here's what we're going to do. First, we made some cards. They're just the size of color tiles. And there are different patterns, different designs that I've made, okay? So what the kids do is they pick a card and they're going to make that design. So I'm going to put my tiles right on my card. Okay? All right, so that's what it says. Pick a card and make the design. Then roll the dice. So what I've done is I've taken these little containers I got at the dollar store, and I put the dice inside these. That way the dice aren't rolling all over the floor. So they roll the dice. It landed on 4, so that means I have to subtract 4. So 6 take away 4 equals 2. Now, this is at the conceptual level, which is where we want all learning to happen. Then we're going to move it to the pictorial level. Now, it was conceptual while they were making it because they were manipulating the paper squares. But once they've glued this down, it's now a pictorial representation of that. So what they've done is they've got theirs on there. So this one was 8, take away 5, so he crosses out 5 equals 3. So we've gone from the conceptual, where they manipulate, to the pictorial, where they're Xing it out, to the abstract. This is how deeper levels of understanding happen. Could kids write this 5 minus 3 equals 5, 8 minus 5 equals 3? Yes. But what they don't do is they don't develop that mental image of what's going on if they haven't manipulated the different pieces. Okay? All right. Now this one is called Build Your Number. This is really good for if you're working with number combinations. So what we do is we do the hands assessment, where we have kids count 4 beans into our hand, and we say, we put some in this hand and some in this hand, and we say 2 and the children have to identify the missing number, the missing addend. That's why you find number combinations under your algebraic thinking, because what this is 2 plus what equals 4. So 2 plus x equals 4. Now, if they know 2 and 2, 1 and 3, 4 and 0, and they have it with automaticity, then you would have them count 5 beans and see how they do on the number combinations for 5. You want them to have automaticity. If they don't have automaticity, then that's the number you want them to work on. So in this case, this child's number is 5. They're working on combinations for 5. So what they do is they're going to use 5 tiles and make a design. Now, they have to do it, I'm going to try to copy his. They have to do it with only 2 colors. So in this case, he did 3 and 2. So he's manipulated to build it. Then we've created a pictorial representation, and then we've written the abstract answer. Then if you go over here, you can see he did it another way. He did 1 yellow and 4 green. But before he could do it on there, what did he have to do? He had to build it, right? So he actually builds it. He has to manipulate. This is where that deeper level of understanding occurs, is when they are manipulating, okay? So that's called Build Your Number. So that's great for number combinations, all right? Now this is a great one for teaching shapes and counting. What I did was I went through all my photograph clip art. I have a lot of pictures that I've bought off the internet. So just different pictures, squares and rectangles. And what the kids do is they select a card, and then they're going to use the cover tiles to fill the shape. Now, here's what I like about this center. It takes them a long time to do this. So they're not hopping right back up in just a few minutes saying to you, I'm done, okay? So once they get it all the way filled in, and I'm trying to do this quickly here, once they get it all the way filled in, then they will count to see how many tiles it took to fill in the box. Now, I don't put a recording sheet with this. You could put a picture of the clip art, of the photograph, and then put a box for them to write the number. But sometimes I'm just looking for what I call can-dos. Here's some things that you can do, all right? Not ones that I want to check, all right? Things for our early finishers. Okay, now here's the spinograph one that I thought I was doing when we first started, and I was on the wrong one. So we've got our graph, we have our directions card, all right? We have our spinner, just like we did before. This time I've got 3 colors on the spinner, and then I've got my recording page. So what they do is just like for the other. Now, you see how that has orange on there? There are no orange colored tiles, all right? That should... The orange square is in pattern box. So we fixed that too. Sometimes you don't realize your mistakes until you've actually done it with kids. And so we're trying to build it with the kids, and they're saying to me, Miss Addison, there aren't any orange ones. So when we did that, here's what I did. I said, oh, well, we're just going to make it blue. So let's lay a blue one. And because I had that pony bead in there, the paper clip was able to spin right on top of that blue tile, and it worked just fine. Okay? So if it lands on orange, we're going to put blue. So they spin it. It lands on the line, so it lands on yellow, so we're going to put a yellow tile on. Lands on red, so we're going to put a red. Lands on yellow, so we're going to put a yellow. Lands on red. We're not even landing on that orange one. Oh, there it is. Lands on blue. All right, so what they do is they keep making their graph until one of the columns reaches the top. And once one of the columns reaches the top, they get finished. All right, they color in their squares here and they count how many. They draw their graph, and then over here, they do their analysis. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you one more, and this is really my favorite one. Okay? Because it's a lot of fun. So what I did was I took some clip art pictures and I made them into pictures by putting a frame around them.
Is this an individual activity or group activity?
Which one?
The previous one.
Okay, so here's how we want to do all activities. We want to do the gradual release of control. And when Michelle, who is a master scripter, scripts our lessons, because usually what we do is Michelle does the scripting and I do the creating, because we each have different gifts, and that seems to be how it works out. But what Michelle puts on our lesson plans is I do, we do, you do. All right? So first, you want to do this and demonstrate to the kids. All right? And then you want to do it with them. Okay? And then you want to watch them do it independently. Once they can do it independently, then you can put it into a center. So we've done it like that in a large group, and we're watching our kids, and we're collecting that data, and we're seeing who is able to do this independently and how many kids after our mini lesson are able to do it independently. And if most of them are, then we can put it right into a center. But if not, then we want to take this and do it in small group and call kids into group and watch to see how kids are doing. Now, not every child needs to know how to do it before you put it into one of your centers. If you do grouping like I do, my groups, my center groups are mixed ability. So that means that not everyone over there has to know how to do it. As long as 2 or 3 know, they can help the others who don't know. Okay? Thank you for the question. Appreciate that.
That was Tara Lynn.
Okay, thank you, Tara. All right, so here's what we've done. I took the pictures and I just put them in the middle, and then I made a frame around them. And I made different sizes of frames, all right, because I want them to use different numbers of tiles. So what they're going to do is they're going to take a picture, all right. So let's see, on our recording page, my friend here did 3 of them for me so I could show you. But right here, let's get to the dog. So let's find the dog. And I'm going to make a pattern, and I'm going to use 2 colors of tiles. So I'm going to use red and yellow. So I'm going to go yellow, red, yellow, red. So here we're practicing that pattern. Now, a lot of people say, well, patterns aren't in Common Core. Y'all, look at your math practices. My really smart friend, Catherine Coons, told me, who teaches 4th grade math, told me that her kids in 4th grade, since Common Core has started, have had a bigger problem with algebra because they're unable to detect the patterns. So I asked her, I says, well, where is it? Where is patterns in our standards so that we can know and justify it when we're doing it? And she showed me under our math practices. So go back and look at your math practices that are at the beginning of the standards, and that's where you'll find patterns written as something that we should be teaching. Okay? So I've gone all the way around with my pattern. All right, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort. So far we've worked on sorting. We've worked on patterning. Don't you just love it when one activity does more? All right. Then we're going to count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So I would come right here and I would color this in red and write an 11. How many yellow do you think there are? Because it was an AB pattern, it's probably going to be 11 too, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So color this in and put an 11. Now, as you can see, all of his have become equivalent sets. All right? But when children do other patterns, like if they do red, red, yellow, red, red, yellow, then they're going to see that they're not equivalent. So you could have them right here do something to show you the sets are equal or which one has more or less. And then you've also worked on the comparing standards. So right there, we've worked on about 4 or 5 different standards, okay? This is another what we call can-do, all right? Now, if I'm going to put these centers as can-dos, here, I'm not going to put this over there, all right? Because I don't want to check this. If I'm going to put it as a have-to, something that I'm using as a benchmark, as something I'm using to determine whether or not they're mastering the standards, then I'm going to put this over there. If I'm putting this over here for something for just repeated practice so that we don't forget how to do things, or things for my early finishers to keep them actively engaged in mathematical practices and principles with meaningful activities and not just busy work, then these are what those are for. These are what we call our can-do centers. All right? So I hope that this is giving you some ideas. I have a blog post that went up this afternoon that's got these ideas written out for you. That seems to have been really helpful to a lot of the people that have been watching the lives, is to be able to now go back and see the blog post. So just go to kindergals.blogspot.com, and that's where you will see the blog post. So we'll put a link to it in the comments in case you don't see it, in case you can't find it on your own. Y'all have a great evening. I'm headed to my son's house. He's cooking us tacos for dinner. So y'all have a great evening, and I'll see you later. Bye.